So today is the Iowa caucus, and these things are always interesting and fun. Trump is way ahead in the aggregate according to Real Clear Politics. He's got a 33.8% lead over the second place. Nikki Haley at 18.7, DeSantis at 15.5, and Ramaswamy at 6.5. Now, the Iowa caucus is a little different than, obviously primary voting, just like a general election, you go in, you vote, and that's, that counts. Caucuses are a little different. Now, I know a lot of you are probably familiar with this, but you go to a polling place, in some cases they have slates where you vote on a basket of either sometimes candidates or a policy or something like that. I remember in 2008 or 2012 they had something like that in Louisiana. It was like really weird. They did it just to screw over Ron Paul. I remember that very well, and like the Ron Paul supporters thought that was a good chance to actually officially win a state, and of course they found a way to finagle that away from him. But Iowa is actually different. They actually don't necessarily just have one round of voting. Sometimes they can have one or a second round of voting. You can switch party lines like that day that the voting is taking place. So today you can have a bunch of Democrats come in and try to vote for another candidate. By the way, I saw an article that the Democrats are trying to get Democrat voters to vote for Nikki Haley today in Iowa. So that tells you something. They want Nikki Haley to try to be a thorn in Trump's side through the primary season in order to slow Trump down so he's not, going head-to-head right away with Biden. So, it's one of the methods of throwing the kitchen sink at him. So it's the news is going to be who wins second. Again, Iowa's a little different. The aggregate polling doesn't necessarily translate exactly in results within a relatively small margin of error like it typically does with primaries or, a general election. Especially the Iowa caucus, if you look at 2016 or even 2012 or 2008, I remember this when I used to help campaign for Ron Paul, 2008 and 2012, that, the polling and what the results are for Iowa can be actually kind of different and, interesting. Like the margin of error is a bit wider. And again, like I said, that has to do with the way they do it. So the person with more enthusiasm usually gets out ahead, or they overperform the polls, and vice versa. Someone who doesn't have the enthusiasm underperforms. So I saw a statistic earlier this morning that Nikki Haley's enthusiasm was like at 33%, Trump was like 88%, and I think DeSantis was somewhere in the middle. They did not have that stat for Ramaswamy, but I would imagine it's probably relatively high. So if I just had to take a guess, just an off-the-wall guess, obviously Trump gets it. Whether he underperforms or overperforms his poll, I'm not sure. That can almost go either way. Given his enthusiasm, I suppose he could very well overperform. You got Ramaswamy. He's currently at 6.5%, but I would not at all be surprised if he ended up getting 10% of the vote. Again, this is just a shot in the dark guess, just based on patterns I've known in the past. And you got Haley and DeSantis, which is really, both are eking it out for second. And that's what the story is going to be after this, is who wins second. Is it, I know the Democrats seem to want Haley. She's a disaster, but she's currently polling at second place. But it could very well flip. You could very well have DeSantis eke it out over Haley, especially given the fact that like I said, that DeSantis has more enthusiasm for his support. So, like I said, these things are always interesting. I would predict that obviously Trump wins. I'm going to go ahead and say that DeSantis ekes it out just a little bit over Haley for second place. In which case, I think, it's basically done after that because, I think at that point Trump definitely wins New Hampshire, and I think he sweeps it after that. But we'll wait and see what happens.